So today you find me in the beautiful British Midlands, just south of the marvellously multicultural Leicester, home of Leicester City Football Club, the King Power Stadium, Walker's Crisps, Gary Lineker, but most importantly, for me today anyway, is the River Soar and the Leicester line of the Grand Union Canal. So I'm going to have a paddle through that and we'll see how we get on. Let's get on the water. I love these early starts. It's about 6:45 at the moment. I've just seen some bunnies on the footpath, on the towpath next to me on the left. I just love it. Nobody's around at the moment. I've seen a couple of cyclists go by on their way to work, but apart from that, I'm sort of all on my own really. I love it. Now I'm coming up to my first lock. When I looked on the map and did some planning for this, I always plan these things quite well actually. I think it's important. I noticed the locks. Now I've done a few videos about sort of safety on canals, and it's important really to think about locks, because for us on paddle boards and in kayaks, there goes a heron, and in kayaks, and locks can be quite dangerous places. So honestly, if you're not carrying much, you know, and it's easy enough to transport, you really need to do a thing called portage. It's a French word and it basically means get out, grab your stuff, carry it around and put it back in. It's a lot easier, it's a lot quicker, it's a lot safer, and also it doesn't waste loads of water, because what's the point of putting loads of water through a lock and downstream just for a paddleboard? So what I'm going to do here is get out, run around, put back in again. You probably can't see it, but I'm looking at all the mist on the water in front of me and it's wonderful. I love that. So like I said, the River Soar is a pretty large river, and it's actually a tributary of the River Trent. It heads north all the way through Leicestershire, Loughborough, all the way to the River Trent, and eventually drains out into the North Sea. Leicester wasn't a very up and coming place in the 1700s, because it was all just road links, and when they needed the pieces for industry, coal and supplies for manufacturing businesses, everything had to come by road. So the River Soar was quite difficult to put traffic on really, because it was shallow and fast flowing, which is no good. It's great if you want to go down it, not so good if you want to go up. So eventually in the 1890s it was canalised, which means making it into a canal of sorts. Now what that meant was putting locks in for a start to hold the water back, so that you could effectively bring boats up and down steps in the water. So they put lots of weirs in and lots of locks in and canalised it. Now in parts of it they had to build an actual canal, so to bypass some of the worst wiggly parts of the Soar. So in the 1890s the Leicester Canal was built, going all the way through to the Trent. What that meant was industry absolutely took off, and strangely Leicester was famous at the time for hosiery. Hosiery is everything to do with garments with the legs, so tights and socks and stockings and underwear, everything basically below the waist. Very popular apparently, to the point where there were around 250 businesses, separate businesses, all in the hosiery business, exporting down the canal, through to London, through to all over the country, and eventually through all over the world. It was very famous for that, and that was really what built Leicester, was the hosiery business, long before crisps and football. And if you look over there leading up to the lock, you can see this is a canalised river, because all of these locks have a bypass where the stream goes around the outside, down a weir and through, which means, you know, this is the only way a boat could actually go. I love all these old buildings, very industrial looking. And that's where the River Soar meanders back to the canal again. I don't think I would have got through there, it all looks like weeds and reeds. And this here is the railway bridge. They call this Echo Bridge for some reason. Maybe it echoes. And that over there, for any of you Leicester City football fans, is the King Power Stadium. Used to be the Walkers Stadium from Walkers Crisps, the big business around here. With the sun coming up behind it, it's quite nice, isn't it? Lots of lily pads. And that goes down the weir down there, a big weir actually that is. Lots of ducks sitting on it at the moment. As I come up to my third lock of the day. Obviously these big floats are out to stop any boats accidentally taking the wrong way, or I guess when the river gets a bit in flood, stuff can get washed down there obviously. But there you are, Leicester City Football Club. I bet that's a busy place on match days. It's an interesting looking bridge. Kind of an upside down suspension bridge. Now that down there is Leicester Rowing Club. And Leicester Rowing Club and De Montfort University, the famous University of Leicester, they use this bit for practice and for going up and down, because it's what's called the straight mile, and I'm looking in front of me and I can see pretty much a mile of straight canal up and down from the lock behind me right the way through. We're pretty much getting to the centre of the middle of Leicester now. I actually don't like this really straight bit. It's a bit like when you're hiking and you're on your way along a path and you can see it stretching out for miles, and it kind of tells you, yep, that's the bit you've got to do, so put your back into it. I prefer the wiggly bits really, where you can't see that far in front of you, and I just find it's a more interesting paddle or a more interesting walk. But this is interesting anyway, because the town's coming alive now, the city's coming alive. I'm getting to the trafficy bits, and I quite like that. I like that everybody's going to work while I'm having a paddle. Very substantial looking bridge. So as I said, in the 1790s, when it was canalised and built, it went on for quite a while like that. It then got bought up, the route, the Leicester line, coming out from the Grand Junction Canal at Norton Junction, just south of Watford Locks, and Watford the town, and also Watford Gap Services on the M1 that wasn't there at the time, obviously. But the Leicester line got bought up by the Grand Junction Canal. Kind of, what would that have been? That would have been around about 1840-ish. And then, as with these things, it all got in a bit of disarray. All of the canals all over the country are all private, and they all got in a bit of disarray, really. A bit like the railways did some years later. So to get it out of disarray, what happened was everything was amalgamated around here. These bits of canal were amalgamated into the Grand Union Canal. Everything was united. In 1933, I think, that happened, to put them all together, to get the maintenance done properly, and to still be of use to the country as a freight line. There's a guy up there riding a wasp, by the sound of it. Now, in the days when the hosiery businesses were all in full go, all 200 and something of them, the chemicals that they used and the bleaches that they used were released straight into the river, and it was known for being pink water. Very colourful place, and it basically killed off all of the wildlife, and it was all pretty ghastly. It was just freight boats down here then. Nobody really cared about the wildlife particularly, but nowadays it's actually it's one of the cleanest stretches of water in the country. The EA, the Environment Agency, closely control it, and any businesses that are likely to interact at all with the water are very closely controlled, and heavy fines are given out if there's a problem. I've not heard of a problem for here. I did look it up. Hasn't been a problem for quite a while, I don't think. And that's lovely, because it's a beautiful piece of water. That's a nice mural. I like that. That's showing the hosiery business on the right, and Richard III on the left, who, I don't know if you remember, but in the news a while ago they found his body, dug him up in a car park and reinterred him in Leicester Cathedral. Got quite a bad press from Shakespeare, I think, Richard III. Now that's an interesting sign. That says GUCCO. That's the Grand Union Canal Carrying Company. Leicester 0 miles. So we must be, as far as the canals are concerned, in the centre of Leicester at the 0 mark. Now down here, my plan, I've got a plan today, and my plan is, there's a weir here where the river, the proper Soar, goes off to the left and goes right round the back of a big island. There's a weir, there's two weirs actually. My plan is to find a way to get round that and go on to the actual weir and sort of meander around the back of the island, and then come back on the canal. Now, there was a lot of water last night came down from the heavens. It absolutely chucked it down. So, right, that's going to be a job to get down that one. Right there, and that wall looks way too high. So that's not happening either. There might be a place over there past that next bridge. Whew. So I've come around the outside of the weir, walked about 50 yards I suppose, and I've found a place to put in. which is excellent. This is interesting. Oh, but that's slippery. Now, if I'd have been on a kayak, I could have just come straight down the weir. But on this, obviously because it's got the fin at the back, the skeg, I can't do that. Right. You can see the old pillars there for the old railway bridges that went across. Okay, so now I'm on the actual River Soar. Oh, it's moving quite fast, which is nice. Now, something I have noticed is the ducks are standing up in front of me. That probably means it's a bit shallow for my fin. So let's have a look, see. I didn't bring my river fin, I didn't think I'd need it. There goes an egret. Right. Well, I found the deep part anyway. That's fun. Okay. Normal service is resumed. So this is the second weir that I looked at from the other side. There's some very upset geese. Yeah, there's no way I would have got down there. This is all slippy with weed and everything. I'd have made myself look like a clumsy fool. Again. But it seems to be Swan City around here. There's 3 up there, 1 there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 I can see. No, more than that. Now this large bridge support in the middle of the river, this is where the GCR, the Great Central Railway, used to come across from up there. Right the way across going north. South of here I believe it was Lutterworth, then Rugby, and up that way. This is quite beautiful through here actually. Now we're out of town a bit further north. Got Abbey Park on our left, for anybody that knows Leicester. So it's Abbey Park on our left, and the island as is on the right. But yeah, it's lovely. I like this old bridge I'm coming up to. Very ornate bridge. I'm just coming up to the next weir. It's suffered a bit over the years, that bridge. Looks hundreds of years old, doesn't it? Okay, so I think if I planned this right, I can get out here and get back in on the other side of the weir. Lovely. Well, it all looks a bit lilies over there, so it looks like I'm going this way. What a beautiful place. It was worth coming just for this. So I think the lilies are there because this is quite a shallow basin. I can feel my skeg on the bottom all of the time in all of this mossy sort of weed. Beautiful though, look at that. I didn't expect it to look like that. I do love exploring. Very ornate bridge, another one. Now that building right in front of me, that is, believe it or not, the British National Space Centre. It's not a place where rockets take off from, unfortunately. We don't have that around here. But it is a really good visitor centre. Tells you all about the space programs, why we're there, how we get there, how we get them back. All sorts of really interesting stuff. You should go, it's really good. So this is the last weir of my day, but I'm not actually going to be going down that one because I've come to the end of the island on the right that I was talking about, and I knew I would be because that coincided with the space centre. Well, it's a bit shallow, very. And I'm going to go back along the canal down the other side of it. Along there, Swan's Nest Footbridge, 1975. So that's the end of my lovely paddle. Well, it's not the end of my paddle, it's the end of your paddle. I've got to go paddle all the way back to where I parked my van. But it's another 4 miles that way. So this bit of canal joins up to where my first weir was. And I'll go back again. But this is definitely a paddle you should do. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoy all my paddles, but this has been really nice. There's loads of history here. It's just a fun place to be. It's just a fun place to, you know, do what we do. Anyway, like, subscribe, stay tuned.